All right, it's recording.
All right, we're going to get this meeting started of the special called Legislative Committee on Monday, September the 19th at 6 p.m. Invocation. Commissioner Brown, would you mind praying?
Lord, we are grateful that each and every day that we can wake up and be able to enjoy the things that we have here that you have created for us. You are the creator of this universe. As we make decisions here tonight, give us the wisdom to do those things that are right in your sight according to your word. Lord, we're always understanding that those things that are outside are always looking in. And we hope that our wisdom will be yours, that your words will come through us. Help us to always understand the need for good governance in government, one of your institutions that you started at the very beginning. Lord, we pray for the citizens of this county. We hope that everything that they do will be according to your will. Watch over all of us as we continue doing the things that we should in this meeting tonight. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ.
Amen. All right, approval of the agenda. Got a motion?
So moved.
Got a second? Second by Commissioner Schoaf. Motion made by Mr. Rogers. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Recognition of the public. Anybody wants to speak? Mr. Baker, would you please come up?
Chairman, Kevin Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road. I realized last week I didn't state my full address, Portland, Tennessee, 37148. I might have misspoke last week. When I talked about the rules, I was a little quick. You guys did a great job of first pass. I do believe that there's a lot of room, and don't rush this thing. Why not put a rule in your rules that says that there's a sunset date? And then until that date, I know we argued or talked about 30 days, 60 days, whatever. Set some date in the future where you can thoroughly look through the rules. Now, I know this is an issue, but make sure you get everybody's buy-in. Down the road, it's going to be immensely helpful, I believe. Anyhow, so I look forward. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what you're going to talk about tonight. I believe we're heading in the right direction, and I applaud you all for doing that. All I say is don't jump. You don't have to do that. Give yourself time. I don't see any guns to anybody's heads to get this done. Write a rule that says on January 1st, I don't know, that you can then have to modify with 2/3. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents. Have fun.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Anybody else for public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comments. Report of the chairman, have none. For the county mayor. Old business, there's nothing there. New business, discuss, consider, and possibly vote upon the selection process and description of the duties of the Sumner County Law Director. As a recap from last week, Commissioner Hyde made a motion to form a ad hoc committee, 2 members chosen by Commissioner Hyde as chairman and 2 members chosen by the county mayor. And I guess part of that tonight is coming back with that selection of who those members are. Then also, if need be, discuss a time to meet sometime the next week or two as an ad hoc. But also basically going through, Mr. Allen has gone through and given us kind of a draft, which we needed to do tonight, a description of duties of the law director that we can talk about and be able to read out loud and vote on tonight as a commission, so that we can go ahead and pass a resolution that this would go out to, I guess, bid and talk about it, so it can be advertised as far as a job description on job boards, et cetera, et cetera. So other than that, I guess, open the floor for discussion. I guess, do we need a motion to move these forward for discuss, or
Yes,
so
we need a motion.
entertain a motion to so we can discuss the description of job descriptions by Mr. Allen that he put forward.
So moved.
Yeah, second? All right, second by Mr. Brown. Ben, you want to share?
I just kind of want to do just a brief overview of my process here. So I know we talked about a list of all the job duties, and I realize that's a full page, and putting that in the newspaper might not be practical. So on one side of the page, there is a shorter version that's more broad strokes. It says things like, knowledge of parliamentary procedure, knowledge of workplace and employment law, things like that. And that would then direct any applicant to go to the website to look at the more exhaustive list. And on the other side is that more exhaustive list. So I put this together with consultation with the previous law director of what, things that come up. Some of these things might not even come up in a given year, but they are things that one should expect to come up at some point. Uh, and that is, and one other thing is I did not put on here on where you want the application sent. I spoke with Ms. Templeton. She's fine with them going to the clerk's office. I'm fine with them going to the law director's office. I just didn't know where all you wanted any resumes to be sent to.
Open for discussion. I'm open to ideas. I mean, I think it makes sense to go to the law director's office. I don't know, or I mean, any objections or any thoughts on that?
And I'm fine with adding send all interested applicants send resumes to the office of law
What do we
director.
typically do in the past when things are open? It just depends. I mean, I know.
Well, sometimes depending on the statute for let's say the judge position, as a constitutional office holder, the statute says to the clerk's office.
Sure.
But this not being a constitutional office holder, there's not the same kind of requirements.
I would say let's keep it internal with the office of law director. As far as any other county employee would be handled that way, I think. So.
Okay.
As far as posting, I know the intent was more than just the county website. So what are our options on posting to job boards, just to cast the net a little wider and give people opportunity outside the county to be able to talk. So I don't know if that's like Indeed.com, Jobs.com, Monsters.com.
So my understanding at the last meeting was it was newspaper and the website. I'd probably go down to HR and talk to her about where we've posted other jobs for the county. And I'm sure that she has some kind of account with Indeed or other job boards that we can work with.
This feels like account manager, HR, all day long. Posting. I mean,
she has. I'm sure she has all those accounts already in existence, but we do not.
So I mean, my recommendation would be to put it out on the actual job boards, not just the county website.
Okay.
So do we need to make a motion for that, or is that just part of?
I don't feel like we need a motion for that. I think this is something we can do.
Just a function.
Yes.
Are you taking that? Who's taking that back? Who owns that task?
So I was going to have them send any of the applicants, send them to Ramona, the office manager for our office. I would plan on talking to Cheryl tomorrow in HR about getting whatever we agree upon onto any job boards and see what we need to do to get that done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like the idea of the paper one and the one for the county, but obviously the longer one for the county would also be for the job boards. But that makes sense from the small one that you did, so I appreciate that. I guess, is there a need, you guys want to discuss these, read these off, or is this something that's kind of self-explanatory, pass it around? I don't know if for the commissioners to have on their desk tonight.
Pretty complete to me. I don't see too many other things that need to be added.
It seems pretty.
And the summation looks pretty succinct.
Any other discussion or questions about these?
I think it's important that it is mentioned here that they do have to work day to day with the county mayor.
That's on there or it's not?
Right now it says provide legal advice to the county commission, elected officials, department heads, and various boards and committees of Sumner County. So it's not spelled out specifically for the county mayor on this list.
Make sure that there is clarity.
Any discussion?
I mean, we're what line is that in?
Very first.
Oh, okay, got it.
I don't.
So are you saying to change that to say provide legal county commission, elected official, department heads to include, and various boards and to include the county mayor? Is that?
I can make sheriff.
I can make
superintendent
a separate bullet point for county mayor or any specific official. I just was in trying to keep it to one page. I just said all officials and department heads.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
Or, I mean, I guess you could make another bullet. We're getting into the real nitty gritty here, but like,
I mean, I think you're gonna list one constitutional officer, you need to list them all.
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, if we're gonna do that, I mean, we need to do them all unless you guys object.
Can you just put all elected officials, or does it really need to go
it
into?
says that.
I don't mean, it already says that.
I mean, I guess you could make the argument that if it's going out, especially if it's going, trying to cast a broad net, people are gonna wonder, well, which elected officials.
And I do think it might be helpful if there's something, not even just for elected officials, you know, that you get even to the department heads of emergency medical services. There's a lot that goes into representing a healthcare agency, you know, and same with sheriff's office being law enforcement, and especially having a jail. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't come up with normally without that in there. So that might give a little more clarity than just saying elected officials and department heads. But I just don't know where we draw the line of who gets listed individually and who gets lumped in. Sheriff, EMS are probably the two that are going to have the most unique practice area requirements, and developmental services too, I'd say that. Zoning issues, something that a lot of attorneys don't deal with. But, you know, when you get to Register of Deeds, doesn't need a lot of legal advice generally. So it just, some offices need more and more expertise to work with than others.
Commissioner Becker.
So I don't have it listed in front of me, which is fine, but I mean, I don't know if technically if it says county commissioner, we're elected officials, but it specifically states county commissions, I think.
That's the first one.
Yeah, so, and then I think in the spirit of, if I understand it correctly, Chairman Hyde is selecting two and the county mayor's selecting two, that I would say, that we would say on that first line, you know, county commissioners, county mayor, and then whatever else it says. I mean, you all as a group, committee already have formed the group of four under the commission and the mayor. Like we didn't, my understanding, we didn't ask the sheriff, all the other ones to supply two people each or whatnot. So I think it makes sense just, you know, put the county mayor's name in there for his request or whatnot. I don't see any harm in that.
I have no problem adding after commission, county mayor, comma, other, and then elected officials.
The only concern is if we do that, then we're gonna have to, I guess we could say elected constitutional office holders or elected constitutional officials. I mean, as close as we are to Kentucky, someone may not understand how we operate. They could be a license holder in both states, but
I would suspect that anyone who would be interested in this is probably practicing in the county. I would not be shocked if they just called me to ask,
that's what I said last week.
or,
before we drew it all out.
you know, if they've known Leah, they might call her instead. I suspect that if an attorney is confused by something on here, they would call one of us and ask about it.
Commissioner Lynn.
All elected office holders, it's a summation for everybody. And then there's the job criteria has specifically for the healthcare, for the jails. I don't have on everything, so we should take the ambiguity out, just in the roles and responsibilities, and actually have to spell it out in the title. Just to make sure.
So I didn't quite understand what the suggestion was there, so can you repeat that?
Just to take out county commission, just say all elected office holders. And each individual bullet point for job responsibilities should outline for the EMS, the healthcare piece, the jails, the sheriff's department, the legislature, county mayor needs.
I would want to leave county commission in specifically because unlike the county clerk, which is an individual, the commission is a body of 24. And it gets complicated because we try to help individual commissioners whenever we can, but technically our client is the county commission acting as a body. I can't really do that without helping individual commissioners along the way, but I think it's important to leave the county commission
I do too. I mean, I'm fine with the language as it is. I mean, I don't know. So, not any changes. That's just me. You guys have any problem with that? Approving as is, or you want to make a change? We have a motion on the floor. We've already got a second. So, you want to amend it? You might want to make an amendment to language.
I'll make a motion to amend. I want to know exactly what it says. I mean, I want everybody to be happy with this. I think, personally, I think this is good, but it needs a second if we're going to go any further.
So would the amendment, motion amend be to add county mayor, comma, other in front of elected officials?
Other, something, I need something specific. I mean, I'm making a motion here to allow for some amendment. I'm not dictating what that amendment is.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought you were making a motion for a specific amendment.
I'm not. But if it's not going to get a second.
Well, I mean, I'm in agreement with that. We can put the county mayor after the commission, but I would like to just, instead of other elected officials, I'd just like to leave it of elected officials.
Okay.
Elected officials.
More inclusive, I think, than other elected
Yeah.
officials.
County commission,
Out.
comma, elected official, and all the way to second, to include the county mayor, and then continue as is. Pretty simple change.
Okay.
Is that amenable to everybody? All right, any more discussion?
Just for clarity's sake, what is the motion that would be, or the amendment to the motion?
The amendment is to amend that language to say provide legal advice to the county commission, comma, county mayor, comma, elected officials. My understanding.
No, it was provide legal advice to the county commission, comma, elected officials to include the county mayor, comma, and then continue on as.
Okay.
That's something simple.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment on the table? All in favor say aye. Opposed? No. So 2 opposed. Mansfield and Rogers. Schoaf and Brown were 4. Hyde, I don't.
I'm for it.
And Commissioner Hyde 4. So 3-2. The amendment passes. All right, any other discussion on the main motion to approve the list? All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So we've got this approved. So how would you want to proceed with this for the night for getting this before the full body?
If we get out of here enough time, I'll go and make the changes that we discussed and print off 24 copies. If not,
I'm gonna cut us off at 6:45, no later.
okay,
So
I'll see
is
if
that
I can,
enough time?
we'll see.
Okay. All right. All right, moving on to item B, discuss, consider, and possibly vote upon the standing rules and procedures. So last week, we had a motion from Commissioner Schoaf.
My apologies, we've not even talked about how this committee is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
The decision
My apologies, that's
process.
For the sake of expediency, I got a little ahead of myself. So let's back it up. Commissioner Hyde, I'll give you the floor for how, since yours your motion last week on how to proceed.
Okay, I had asked today for a notice to be done by Ben, but I withdrew that because we could not have all of the people on the committee present. And what I wanted to do was have an initial organizational meeting where they could just have everything down and the way they're going to operate and what they're going to do before they have to get into the meat of things. So I will do that in the near future when we can get everyone here, all 4. There's so few people. One is 25% of the committee.
What is the charge of the committee?
I think that night I pretty much stated what it would be, and that is to schedule the activities of the committee, dates if necessary, meeting times, decide how they will interview or talk to people, and in what manner. And then they will make a recommendation. And one of the things that they will need to do is to determine if they will have one candidate coming forward for the commission to choose, or two or three or whatever. But just basic things like that is what I will go over the committee with, and then turn them loose, and to elect a chairman.
You guys want to tell who your committee members are that you picked?
Oh, I certainly will. My choice was Commissioner Mansfield and Commissioner Bergdorf. And I think the mayor, well, Mayor, you can tell who your two are.
Yeah, I have Citizen Craig Garton and Commissioner Mark Harrison.
Okay. Any other questions about the process? Or I know we have to define a meeting time. I know next week didn't work for Commissioner Bergdorf, so I assume the following week on that Monday or Tuesday, the 3rd or 4th.
That's what we'll shoot for.
Okay, sounds good. Any other discussion or any other questions? I don't think we need a motion on that, so it's just information only. All right, moving on back to item B under new business, discuss, consider, and possibly vote upon the standing rules procedure. Last Monday, there was a motion made to extend this out another 30 days by Commissioner Schoaf, and that did pass, I think, unanimously in this committee for a total of 60 days to review the rules, because we just ran out of time last week for the sake of time. And one thing that there was a memo passed around by Mr. Allen that had suggestions. I guess questions were asked in talking to CTAS on suggestions on the rules. And Mr. Allen and I talked about an hour or two last week about it, and we both talked to CTAS. And what I'd sent to him was just an updated, for this committee for right now, updated version of this, where what's in red and struck out is just literally language that's being removed. Whatever you see in blue, which is pretty much only the word county mayor being replaced right now, as well as adding the finance director to a list of approved people on page 9 under procedures addressing the chair. Basically, you had the county mayor, you had the law director, you had the county clerk, and other commissioners, and just it was a suggestion by Mr. Allen to put the finance director, which I thought was a good suggestion. These are suggestions. Some things, a lot of these things were, the intent of this is to be more restrictive on ourselves, as Mr. Baker had said. I know they provide a lot of things, and our goal is to basically more tightly bind the actions of the commission so that it benefits citizens, both from a procedural standpoint for how we push things through committees to slow things down, how we take on tax-related issues. There were some suggestions that Mr. Baker made and some others that just, after talking to CTAS, under our current form of government, just weren't legal. And so I had to back those out, and that was part of my delay, so I apologize. And I was going to share that from the floor tonight, the whole full commission. But some things that were in here, for example, approval of regular agenda on page 2, items 1 and 3, I struck those out. Basically, this conversation was born out of item 3, and that was one that I added basically to restrict myself. Honestly, there was times, as you know, I was in a super minority of commissioners for the past 4 years, and there was one thing that I tried to get on the agenda 7 times, and the committees refused to put on the agenda. So I tried to get it from the floor of the commission 7 times, and I was voted down from the floor of the commission 7 times. However, just because I'm able to do that, I thought it'd be better and more transparent for citizens if something was added from the floor of the commission that wasn't previously advertised. It would be a good idea to have a checks and balance to extend that time out for another month. However, another thing running into, same with the tax-related issues, and Ben and I debated, it was more restrictive than state law allowed in that instance. So for right now, we struck it out. It's one of those things I guess we could do and challenge it, but I like the idea of it. But even though just because I like something doesn't make it right. Back that one out, but that was, again, to keep somebody like, from me, even though I can't get something done in committee, to go from the floor. And if I got it passed from the floor, the idea would have to kick over to the next month to give proper notice to citizens, to give them further notice. I just didn't think it was fair for me to get something passed from the floor. However, talking with Ben and what's talking to CTAS, it was more restrictive than state law allows when it comes to voting procedures for majorities. So we backed that one out. The same thing goes with approval of the regular agenda. This is something that's the 2/3 majority has been on there for I don't know if it's been decades. It's definitely been 2015 or before.
Before I was here.
And so that was something that I would be amenable to pushing to still fight for that, because I think it's a good check and balance for us to keep the threshold higher. But again, going with state law on the statutes on the voting threshold on, I think it's 55-110, if I'm not mistaken, that 2/3 threshold is too high. Again, I'd argue because I think we could still get away with it, because if you want to add something to the agenda, you can do it during the committee process. And if it's something an emergency last minute, we've got a 2/3 rule anyway to approve something. The boiler goes out, we can approve it and add it to the agenda, 2/3 approval. I still like that rule of making it harder personally on that one for that instance. But there were some things like that. There was Commissioner Harrison called something good, something redundant on page 12 about a quorum that was kind of repetitive. So struck that out, and Ben had brought that up. So the intent tonight and moving forward, just give you guys a precursor. The goal, in my opinion, is we'll take another 30 days. Anybody, my motion and recommendation tonight is to, again, extend the 30 days. Anybody who wants to make changes, submit them to Mr. Allen in the law director's office, and gather those things together next month. And we come with a slate. He asked me if I wanted to print this out tonight for full commission. I just said, let's just do it legislative, because it's just, to me, I think it's gonna be more confusing. We can send this to you guys tomorrow, the full commission, obviously, but it's just one of those things of just adding more and heaping on. I thought it might be more expeditious to have a large pile. Here's all the suggested changes or edits. But the reason I want to do this tonight is because it was specifically addressing the memo that Ben sent out last week. So I specifically wanted to address it tonight, since it was something that he sent out. And I think he said it was in addressing questions from other commissioners. And so since that was doing that, that's why I wanted to present this back of suggested striking things out per what we discussed and per what state law said. So again, more things that I want to be restrictive, unfortunately wasn't able to. So Commissioner Winter.
As we move forward with the different changes, can we put a version number on the cover? Because it's going line by line through these rules, every time there's one change, it's pretty painful.
We can. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
And I do just want to say one thing about, the rules. There are some limits on how restrictive you can make them as to force your hand as far as what you can do. But the commission still has the authority to defer anything or to back to committee if it's brought up on the floor. You still have the power to do everything that the rules were trying to require. It's just there wasn't the legal authority to necessarily require it by the rules.
he's basically talking about item number 3 on page 2, where I basically was trying to say if I add something to the agenda that I wouldn't be able to necessarily get it passed that night. The conflict with law came in because of if it's something that it only requires a majority vote of the commission, if we're passing a resolution or even something financial, whatever, you can't bind yourself and restrict yourself to kick it over to another month by a self-imposed rule. Now you can defer it, through Robert's rules of order. So it's basically the same thing. So I understood it, but again, my intent there was to be more restrictive, and I was using myself as an example on how to be more restrictive, even of myself and binding myself on things that I'd like to do. So those were the main things. But yeah, definitely going forward, if moving any edits, but these, we can add those to that. You could add that tomorrow if you wanted to hand it out. But obviously, we can discuss it tonight in full commission. But if we're going to give it 30 more days, my recommendation was going to be have everybody compile the things, send it to Ben, and we can discuss in legislative and try to get for the floor like a more final version. Commissioner Harrison.
Just a point of clarification. At the special call meeting, it's my understanding, questions posed to the chairman, that any changes would be submitted to the chair. But I think you just said that they would be submitted to the law director. So I don't care. I just want to make sure.
And I think it would, since that time, several of us have talked, and I think it would be a lot more efficient to go straight to the county attorney. And I'd like to emphasize too that we need to get on with this. We don't have to rush it like the chairman said tonight, but we don't need to be dragging out suggested changes on the rules for the next 6 months. Once the deadline is here, that's all we're accepting and that's all we're looking at, period. So
This is under the amended simple majority.
Yes.
So this would be a total of 60-day extension from September 1st. So put us into the October meeting.
What is the deadline for submission? Because obviously that needs to be to, to the.
I would say if we're gonna have it for the
7
legislative,
days before.
yeah, if we're gonna have it for the legislative meeting, the Monday before would be.
Would
I
be
would
the
hope,
Tuesday before this month.
correct, because we have Columbus Day,
Yeah.
so that's the October 4th. Thank you.
Can you get that word?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
So is Ben gonna email out like the latest and greatest, freshest version?
Yeah, I just wasn't wanting to confuse things.
No.
So he can email this out tomorrow or tonight, or there's time, I don't know if there's time to print them, put them in your
So
desk.
tonight, we're not really gonna talk about it at all.
You can talk about whatever you want to talk about, as you know, as a commissioner from the floor, so there's no prohibition, but my recommendation was going to be, he got basically a 30-day extension again. And my recommendation was going to be have everybody email their changes in so that we can come together on legislative again and go through, here is what Commissioner so-and-so is recommending. Do we want to vote in that legislative? Obviously, if it doesn't pass the legislative, you still, at the floor of the commission, can bring it back up. I mean, because that's what every commissioner has that right. I mean, that was kind of a process that I think was more expeditious. Commissioner Lynn.
So the extra 30 days, that's gonna put us past the 17th, but so is it on the 17th, or say there's something that comes in past the next commission meeting? How is that gonna be handled?
It practically is the 17th, just because unless there was a special called meeting.
It's practically the next commission meeting. I mean, that's for all intents.
Can we clarify that then, just say the 17th?
That sounds fine to me,
Yeah, 'cause
yeah.
I don't want to get into, well, it was 30 days extra, so it's the 17th.
I'm fine with that.
So we probably should do we need a motion for that, or do you want to just put that in the land meeting? Since the motion was for 30 days, that's what we passed last week, so.
I think it would be best to put that in motion.
Yeah,
It
so,
would need to be amended.
So I'll make a motion then for a deadline of the 4th
To submit.
to submit
to legislative.
to legislative, and then the 17th for final approval.
My understanding was
Fine with
the
acceptance.
deadline was the 4th to get to me, and then I would try to get them out.
To legislative, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just understand, obviously, so you got a motion for that. You have a second? All right, second by Commissioner Brown. I understand, obviously, any commissioner at any time before the 17th, at last minute, so that everybody has a right to make changes still on the floor. So obviously, the goal, we try to get it ahead of time if we can, but I mean, that's.
I would hope that in the interest of Mr. Hyde's comment, which I agree with, of moving forward so that we can move on to other business of the county, which we have a lot. And the fact that we've had well over 30 days that, we all believe in the process, and I would hope that there wouldn't be too much discussion post that. I'm not saying they can't, but it would, that would be a little bit different, because I think it would beg the question of, there's been a lot of time allotted to get stuff in there.
Yeah, 60 days for 13 pages, so
Yeah.
it's pretty, that's generous.
Just a comment.
So, all right, well, we got a motion to amend the timeline. We got a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else we need to discuss on the moving this forward to tonight? I mean, because I'm going to pretty much repeat what I just said tonight. So, commission recognition honoring Macwood Eagle Scout. Do we need a motion to approve this?
Yes.
So, entertain a motion for tonight's resolution for honoring Macwood. Commissioner Hyde with the motion, Commissioner Brown with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. One more motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, let me say, I'm very pleased this evening to see a visitor in our midst tonight. He represented the old 8th District with me. He's a very conservative, was a very conservative commissioner, which I appreciated very much. It's Mr. Mike McVeigh. Would you kind of give us a hand, Mike? And we didn't always see eye to eye. As a matter of fact, we had crossings ever so often on the commission, but we've turned out to be very good friends and have coffee ever so often with each other. He's a good man.
Motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. All those in favor say aye.